It's Sunday morning. The bagel is toasted, still hot enough to soften whatever you put on it. You pull the tub of cream cheese out of the fridge, drag your knife through it, and it gives way instantly. Smooth, soft, spreadable straight from the cold, and for years you read that as a good sign. Fresh. Creamy. Exactly what you paid for. Here's the part nobody tells you. That instant, cold spreadability is not a sign of quality. In a lot of cases, it's a sign of engineering. And you didn't do anything wrong. You picked up the tub with the word cream on the front and the picture of the fresh block, and you trusted it, the way most households do every single week in a category worth billions of dollars. The problem isn't your judgment. The problem is that the thing in your hand was built to pass your judgment. Most cream cheese on the shelf is no longer made the way cream cheese was meant to be made. Real cream cheese needs 4 ingredients and a little patience. What's sitting in a lot of those foil-sealed tubs is something else. A dairy system engineered to make cheap water behave like expensive cream, and to do it so consistently that you never notice the swap. We're going to walk the shelf together, from number 5 down to number 1. 5 brands that swap the process for a shortcut, ranked by one simple idea. The more a name is trusted, the more it can afford to hide behind that trust. The brand at number 1 is the one almost every American reaches for without thinking, and it is not there by accident. One rule holds this whole thing together. The front of the package is marketing. The back of the package is the truth. Everything that actually matters is printed in the fine print you were never meant to read closely. Let's start at number 5. Before the countdown, you need to see the trick, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Real cream cheese is almost stubbornly simple. You start with milk and cream, stir in lactic acid bacteria, and then you wait. The bacteria ferment the mixture and acidify it. The proteins tighten, the fat pulls together, and over time it sets into something dense and stable all on its own. No additives. The chemistry does the work. Milk, cream, salt, cultures. 4 things. And here's a small piece of history that tells you everything about this category. Cream cheese, as we know it, was developed in New York in the 1870s. The most famous name attached to it, Philadelphia, was chosen years later as a marketing decision because at the time that city stood for high-quality food. The product wasn't made there. Even the name on the box you trust the most was, from the very beginning, a story told on the front. Keep that in mind as we count down. Now bring in the money. Cream is one of the most expensive ingredients in the entire dairy case. Water is nearly free. So somewhere, decades ago, a very smart and very financially motivated food scientist asked one question. What if we could hold on to that texture while using far less cream? The answer was a class of ingredients called hydrocolloids. Gums like gar, xanthan, and locust bean, plus modified starches. They bind water and thicken it. They give that thickened water a rich, almost fatty feel on the tongue, mimicking the mouthfeel of cream when there's far less fat actually present. Replace some cream with water, add a gum system to hold it together, and you get something that looks identical, spreads similarly, and tastes close enough. Cost drops. Margins rise. Shareholders are happy. One honest note before we start, because I don't want to overstate this. These gums are mostly dietary fiber, and for most people they pass through without any drama. Some animal studies have raised questions about gut irritation and the gut barrier, and that research is still ongoing. Found in a product is not the same as proven to harm you. So this isn't about poison. It's about paying cream prices for a water and gum system and being told it's the real thing. That is the story we're auditing. Number 5. Number 5. Arla. Arla is one of the largest dairy companies on the planet. A farmer cooperative that operates across dozens of countries at a scale most brands can't imagine. And that scale is exactly the problem. When you sell the same product in dozens of markets, consistency becomes everything. You can't let a tub in one country taste different from a tub in another. But fermentation, real fermentation, the biological process, is a little unpredictable. Living cultures don't hit the exact same note every single batch. So at industrial scale, you have 2 choices: accept the variation or engineer it out. Arla's processed cream cheese lines lean hard on the second option. Instead of letting cultures build the structure over time, the formulation leans on stabilizers and protein isolates to guarantee that every unit, in every market, behaves exactly the same way on day 1 and on day 90. The product ships beautifully. It never surprises you, and that is the tell. Because real dairy, left to ferment, always surprises you a little. When a cream cheese is engineered to be perfectly uniform, uniformity is usually the thing you're actually tasting. The fermentation didn't fail. It was optimized away. And once a company can do that at this scale, the next brands on the list start to look less like exceptions and more like the rule. Number 4 is the one sitting in millions of fridges right now, because it's the store brand. The tub with your grocery chain's own logo on the front, the sensible, trust the store choice. Here's what most people never realize. The chain didn't make it. Store brand cream cheese is very often produced by large contract manufacturers and dairy cooperatives. Companies like Dairy Farmers of America that fill tubs for a dozen different retail clients at once, off the same lines, from the same tanks. Flip your store brand tub and read the fine print. Somewhere there's a manufacturer code, and that code is doing more honest talking than the logo. The formulation tell here is specific. Instead of building texture from whole cream, these products often rebuild it from isolated parts. Whey protein concentrate and milk protein concentrate. Protein powders that reconstruct the body of cream cheese out of components. It's technically dairy. It is not the same as starting with full cream and waiting. And there's a quiet reason those protein concentrates keep showing up. They let a manufacturer post a respectable protein number on the front of the tub without paying for the whole cream it would normally take to get there. You read the label, you see a number that looks like real dairy, and you move on. The number is real. The path it took to get there is the workaround. And here is where off the same lines stops being a texture problem and becomes a safety one. In 2024, a single contract manufacturer named Schreiber Foods recalled roughly 836,000 units of cream cheese over possible salmonella. And those units went out under Aldi, Kroger, Hy-Vee, Essential Everyday, Dunkin', and more across 18 states. Different logos, different aisles, different prices. One factory. That recall is the clearest proof you will ever get that the label on the front is a sticker, and the truth is the plant that filled it. Which raises an uncomfortable question about the brand at number 3, the one you pay extra, specifically to avoid all of this. Number 3. 365, the Whole Foods Market Store brand, in its cream cheese spread. This one stings a little more, because of what you thought you were buying. Walking into Whole Foods is a deal you make with yourself. You pay more because you believe the sourcing is cleaner, the standards are higher, the ingredient list is shorter. The whole store is built on that promise. And then you turn over the 365 cream cheese spread, and you find Gar gum and locust bean gum. Locust bean is the same thing as carob bean gum, by the way. A nicer sounding name for the exact same water binding job. It's the same category of gum system showing up in the budget tubs, just wrapped in more sophisticated label language and a calmer font. Now, this isn't unsafe, and it isn't illegal, but it is the one place where the premium promise and the ingredient deck don't fully line up. You walked into that store to escape the gum system. You paid a premium to do it, and the gum system followed you in. That's the pattern of this whole category. The packaging sells you a feeling of clean eating, and the fine print quietly charges you for it anyway. If this is already changing how you read the aisle, even a little, a quick like genuinely helps this reach more people who are still paying that premium blind. Number 2 is where the math gets almost funny. Number 2. Great Value Cream Cheese Spread from Walmart. And I want to be fair here, because this one is at least honest about what it is. Nobody buys Great Value expecting artisanal. It's positioned as the budget option, and it delivers a budget option. But look at how the budget gets built. The formulation leans on modified food starch, multiple stabilizers, and elevated moisture, which is the polite way of saying more water, more engineered thickeners, and less actual cream doing the work. And this is where the dollars matter more than the chemistry. Yes, you paid less per tub, but run the ratio. A real block is legally required to be at least a third milk fat. A spread engineered up on water and starch is sitting well under that. So the gap between what you paid and what you actually carried home in cream isn't a discount. It's a substitution you never agreed to. Do it over a year. A household that goes through a tub or two a week is buying dozens of tubs where a real slice of each one is water, held in shape by starch sold at the price of cream cheese. You didn't get a deal on cream cheese. You got full price on a cream cheese-shaped product, and the savings on the sticker were mostly the cream they left out. Put a rough figure on it. If even a quarter of what you spread this year was water and starch dressed up as cream, that's a quarter of every tub, every week that you paid dairy prices for and never took home. Nobody hands you that receipt. It just disappears into the sticker price, one budget tub at a time. Which brings us to number 1. The tub almost every American has bought at least once. The name that basically owns the word. Number 1. Philadelphia cream cheese spread from Kraft Heinz. This is the one that should genuinely stop you, because Philadelphia isn't just a brand, it is the category. When an American thinks cream cheese, they picture that silver and blue box. The name is the product, and that is exactly what makes this matter. Start with the split almost nobody notices. There are 2 Philadelphias. Turn over the plain block, the foil-wrapped brick, and the formulation is actually relatively clean. Now turn over the spread, the tub, the one that scoops soft straight from the fridge. The ingredient list changes. You'll find gar gum on it, and you'll find something the block doesn't need at all. Natamycin, a mold inhibitor. Sit with that for a second. Real cream cheese, milk, cream, salt, cultures doesn't need a mold inhibitor added to it because it was never engineered to survive months of distribution looking untouched. When a product needs a preservative to hold that illusion of freshness, the freshness was the illusion. And look at the 2 prices side by side sometime. The clean block and the engineered spread usually sit within pennies of each other on the same shelf. You are not paying less for the version with more water and a mold inhibitor in it. You're paying about the same for less cream and more shelf life. The premium didn't come back to you. It went to the margin. And the front of that same tub says, in cheerful type, made with fresh milk and real cream, which is technically true. There is milk. There is cream. But there's also a stabilizer and preservative system layered on top of that dairy to make a softer, wetter, lower-fat formulation perform like something richer than it is. Here's the anchor that closes it. The block can legally be called cream cheese because it clears a federal standard. At least 33% milk fat, no more than 55% moisture. The spread carries one extra word, spread, and that word quietly excuses it from the same rulebook. Same name on the front, same trust, different law on the back. Nowhere is the gap between what you trust and what you're handed wider than right here. At number 1, the brand that earned that trust and then spent it. Pause the countdown, because none of this is an accident. Go back, follow the money, and it all runs to one seam in the rulebook. The Food and Drug Administration keeps what it calls a standard of identity for cream cheese, a legal definition. To be called cream cheese, it has to be at least 33% milk fat and no more than 55% moisture, with only a tiny allowance for stabilizers around half of 1%. Clear that bar, and you've earned the name. But there's a second definition sitting right next to it for cream cheese spread. Add that one word, and the moisture ceiling rises, the fat floor drops, and the stabilizer allowance grows. One word on the label unlocks a completely different formulation. More water, more gum, while the box keeps the same color, the same logo, the same front-of-pack promise. Nobody is breaking a law. They found the flexibility the law already contained, and they built a business inside it. And this didn't happen overnight. The federal standard for cream cheese was written to protect a simple, honest product. The spread category grew up right beside it, legally, as the place to put everything the strict definition wouldn't allow. Over decades, more and more volume quietly slid from the first column into the second, because the second column was cheaper to fill. The rule never changed. The behavior did. Layer the ownership on top, and it gets tighter. That store brand recall wasn't a dozen companies making the same mistake. It was one contract manufacturer filling a dozen labels off shared lines. The wall of choice in the dairy case, all those different logos, collapses into a much smaller number of factories and formulas than the branding suggests. You think you're choosing between brands. A lot of the time, you're choosing between stickers on the same tank, so the system isn't out to hurt you. It's built for cost, scale, and consistency. Cream is expensive, water is cheap, gums are patient in a way that fermentation isn't, and one small word makes all of it legal. The story just falls off the back of the label on the way to your fridge. And once you can see the seam, you can read almost any tub in about 10 seconds, which is what the rest of this is for. First, throw out one test you've probably seen online. Somebody films themselves microwaving a scoop of cream cheese. It goes watery and oily, and they call it proof the brand is fake. Ignore it. Blast almost any cream cheese with high, direct microwave heat and it will break. The fat and water separate, because that's what fat and water do under aggressive heat, real or engineered. That test can't tell the two apart, so it tells you nothing. The useful version is gentler, and it's coming right up. Here are 3 things you can actually do tonight with the tub you already own. First, the low heat melt test. Put a small spoonful in a pan over low heat, and then leave it completely alone. Don't stir it, don't poke it. Real cream cheese breaks down slowly and smoothly. You'll see the fat separate a little and go glossy, the way fat does when heat is applied. A heavily stabilized one does something stranger. It goes tacky, it clumps, it resists the heat with an almost rubbery stubbornness. That's the gum system fighting to hold its structure under stress. On its own, it isn't a lab result, but paired with the label, it's telling. Second, the cold spread test. Take the tub straight from the fridge and try to spread it. Real cream cheese pushes back a little. It feels dense. You have to work with it, and that resistance is fat doing its job. An engineered version gives way instantly, almost like it's been whipped with air or water, because in a lot of cases, it has been. Third, and simplest. Count the ingredients. Real cream cheese needs 4: milk, cream, salt, cultures. If your label runs past 5, and especially if you see more than 1 gum, you're holding a stabilized dairy system, not cream cheese. That one habit, flip, count, look for the gums, protects you more than any brand name ever will. A few quick myths, because they come up every time. Myth 1, gums are dangerous chemicals. They're mostly dietary fiber. The honest concern is texture theater, not toxicity, and the science on gut effects is still early. Myth 2, full fat is the problem. In cream cheese, fat is the point. It's the exact thing the water and gum system is impersonating. Myth 3, the word natural, or the word spread, means better. Spread is the precise word that lowers the standard, and natural isn't regulated here at all. Myth 4, price tells you quality. The premium store brand and the budget one on this list share the same gum system. You can pay more and still take home the workaround. Myth 5, the block and the spread are basically the same product in a different shape. They are not. The block usually clears the real standard. The spread is the one built to step around it. If you change only one habit after this, reach for the block over the tub. So who is actually doing it right? 5 brands passed, and they passed on the exact same test that failed the others. Short deck, real fermentation, no gum system standing in for cream. And the winner won't be the biggest name or the most expensive one. It'll be the one hiding the least. Number 5 that passed. Vermont Creamery. Small batch production, traditional fermentation, high butter fat, and an ingredient list that is exactly what it should be. One disclosure, in the spirit of reading every label. Vermont Creamery has been owned by Land O'Lakes since 2017. But Land O'Lakes is itself a farmer cooperative, and the formula stayed honest. So it passes on the deck, not on the logo. Number 4. Green Valley Creamery. This one solved a real problem the honest way. Green Valley makes a lactose-free cream cheese, but instead of reformulating around additives, they use enzymes to break down the lactose and leave the cream cheese structure intact. That's a fix that works with the dairy instead of around it. Number 3. Kelowna Supernatural. Grass-fed milk, minimal processing, and a deck with no stabilizers, no protein isolates, no hydrocolloids engineering water into the shape of cream. This is roughly what cream cheese looked like before industrial optimization ever got involved. The baseline, the whole category drifted away from. Number 2. Nancy's Probiotic Foods. Nancy's treats fermentation as the actual production method, not a marketing word. They let live cultures build the thickness over time, which gives you natural body and a slight, authentic tang. Texture from biology instead of chemistry. It's the patience the gum systems were invented to skip. And number 1 on the real list, the one that surprised me, is Organic Valley. Not because it's obscure, but because it isn't. You can find it in mainstream grocery stores at a price that isn't stratospheric, and the ingredient list reads like it was written in 1950. Organic milk, cream, salt, cultures. No gums, no stabilizers, no modified starch, nothing that needs explaining. And the reason sits in the ownership. Organic Valley is a farmer-owned cooperative roughly 1,500 family farms, and when the people making the milk are the people selling it, the incentive to cut corners just isn't the same. This is real cream cheese, at scale, at a fair price. It exists, and most people walk right past it to grab the trusted box. And here's the part that should reframe the whole shelf for you. Organic Valley often sits at roughly the same price as the trusted spread at number 1, sometimes just a few cents apart. Same money. One is 4 ingredients. The other is milk and cream with a gum and a mold inhibitor engineered on top. The honest version and the cheaper feeling illusion were competing for the same dollar the entire time. You were just pointed at the box with the bigger name. So here's what you can walk away from this knowing. You know, real cream cheese is 4 ingredients and a little patience. You know, a hydrocolloid is a gum that makes cheap water feel like expensive fat. You know, a standard of identity is the federal line a real block has to clear, and that the single-word spread is how a tub steps around it. You know, protein concentrate is dairy rebuilt from parts, and that natamycin is a mold inhibitor real cream cheese never needed. And you know the store brand logo is a sticker on a shared factory line because a recall once proved it across a dozen labels at once. Their whole model runs on one quiet assumption: that you'll never flip the tub and put the pieces together. That assumption just expired. You don't need me, and you don't need a lab, and you don't need a brand you were told to trust. You need 10 seconds in the back of the package. If someone you know just bought the number 1 tub on autopilot this week, send them this. That's the person it's for. Your food tells a story. Now you can read the whole thing, front and back.